Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. Typically, we only do one a week, but I am ending Women's HERstory Month with a bang and bringing you 2 episodes. Just 2 hours ago, I interviewed Chef Johnson from Farm Table, Elizabeth Johnson from Farm Table in San Antonio. So go back and check that one out. And this hour, I am going to bring you 3 fabulous women from the San Diego area who are part of the Olivewood Gardens Learning Center, Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center. They are part of the Kitchenistas program. So let me bring them here to you. I've got up in the upper right, whatever angle that you're looking at, Monica Lim, and she is the account coordinator at Olivewood Gardens. Jen Nation beneath me, she is the executive director, and Jackie is she is a Kitchenista as well as the volunteer coordinator. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So Kitchenistas, who wants to jump in and tell the audience what the Kitchenistas are? And I found out about you about 2 years ago, and you guys are so busy. It's hard to track you down. You're busy in your communities, which I love, and I'm not complaining, but I'm so glad that we get to share who you are with the rest of the community. So who wants to tell us who the Kitchenistas are?
So Kitchenistas are graduates from one of our educational programs, that is the Cooking for Salud program, a program focused in provide tools to change their eating behaviors and, just jumping into a healthier. So we have Cooking for Salud participants. Once they go through the whole program and graduate, they become Kitchenistas and acquire this title. So Kitchenistas, it's a big group of now women and men who advocate for healthy eating habits in the community. Also, they're like amazing leaders in the community and advocates for many things. So that's a little bit of what a Kitchenista is.
Okay. Now, this program was started in 2012. So you've hit your 10-year mark, right? And as I put in the description to promote this session is that where you're located in National City, it has one of the highest rates of obesity and diabetes in San Diego County and the state of California. And it was created to help combat that. Jen, as the executive director, I know you weren't there when it was started, but can you talk about how the program has evolved since then and what you all do?
Yeah, first, thank you again for having us on today to talk more about Cooking for Salud and the Kitchenistas. I know Monica and Jackie have all the great information about the program, but what I can tell you is Cooking for Salud, the program, which started as a 7-week program, really began as a result of parents whose kids were coming to Olivewood Gardens on field trips, and these students were learning about growing food, eating different nutritious food that's grown in our garden, and the parents were calling Olivewood and asking questions about what their kids were learning and wanting to know how they could learn more. And so in 2012, when the program started, I believe it was called Kitchen Commandos. Mm-hmm. And it was started as this program and kind of one of the staff at Olivewood at the time helped put it together in partnership with some of the parents. And since 2012, now in 10 years, we just last week graduated the 22nd generation of participants in the program. And We've served over 240 women and some men now through this program. And it's, like I mentioned, it's really evolved in terms of feedback from the participants themselves. And so I think what makes the program so unique and powerful is the feedback, the strength of the program really comes from the participants themselves. And the leaders of the program are graduates of the program. So they are Kitchenistas themselves. Our coordinator of the program is Patty Corona. She went through the first generation of Cooking for Salud. And Monica now actually is a staff member at Olivewood as well. And while she does is our accounts coordinator, she's also taken a really big role in helping to support the Cooking for Salud program as well.
Awesome. So Monica and Jackie, you were graduates of the 10th, what do you call it, generation or
Correct.
10th? Okay, the 10th generation. Tell us how you both got involved. Were your kids the ones at Olivewood Gardens and said, hey, come home. Hey, Mom, I want to come. You need to learn more. How did it come about?
Thank you for having us. Yes, I'm a Generation 10th graduate from the Cooking for Salud. And I came to Olivewood because of my mom. My mom is a Kitchenista. She graduated from the 6th generation. And so she would often, when she was going through the program, she would often invite me to come to her house and she would cook what she had learned. And so that's how I became aware of Olivewood Gardens. And then eventually a few years later, I signed up for the program. And a few years later, I had the time to come in and take the program. And so I went through the program. I graduated, like I said, from Generation 10th. And then I stayed on as a volunteer. I stayed on like for 2-3 years and then eventually got to be part of staff. And I haven't left ever since. And so that's how I got started.
Wow, that's awesome. And what about you, Jackie?
Hi. Yeah. Well, my experience was because I was a stay-at-home mom, so I used to attend a lot of the different meetings at the school sites. So one of my kids was in elementary school at that time, and I attend to a principal meeting, and the Kitchenistas were presenting that day. So I met Patty Corona and other Kitchenistas who were leading that parent presentation, and I just get in love with what they were doing. And actually, I was interested in learning how to cook more in a healthier way for my family. So as soon as they say, oh, this opportunity, this person presenting can be you, or you can be part of the Cooking for Salud, right away, I just took the chance and registered for it. Yeah. And I was very happy to receive a call from the program that I was accepted. So I went through the Cooking for Salud program and graduate also 10 generations, same as Monica. And after that, I just started volunteering with the Kitchenistas in the community, doing some parent presentations also. And again, after 2 years of that, the opportunity to join in the Olivewood team came. And that's how I came on board as a volunteer coordinator. And I'm still there.
That's really cool. And just so everybody knows, the word salud means health. So it's cooking for health.
Correct.
Yes.
And so how, Jackie and Monica, going through that program, how did it change your personal health, but the health in your family? Did you see lots of changes? Did you get any complaints from?
Yeah. Go ahead, Monica, if you want to go.
Yes, I did get a lot of complaints. I have to say that I do not have kids, but I do have a husband. And yes, I did receive a lot of complaints. For me, actually, it wasn't as hard because growing up, we have always been conscious of what we eat. So to me, it came more naturally, more organic. But obviously going through the program, it did open my eyes to many more things than what I knew. To me, especially, it was a part of thinking what you drink, right? Because I was always focused on food, but not necessarily on drinks. So that was a big part of me. The sugar side of it was an eye-opening for me. And of course, I did have struggles at home, but I think small changes in the long run, make big differences. And I think also you have to give your family that opportunity to get there, because you cannot do it right away. I think you do small changes and you do a little bit at a time. And for me, the way that I do it is that I have to set the example, right? So that's to me, that's the most important thing. I have to set the example. And if I'm going to buy or cook something, I'm going to make an effort so that that's healthy. And so it's a real struggle. It's a struggle that, it's a little by little thing. It's impossible to say, okay, starting tomorrow, we're not going to eat any of this anymore. It has to be little by little. So I still have my struggles. Sometimes we go for months and we're so good, and then something happens and then we get off track and then we start again. So it's little by little.
Awesome. And Jackie, what about you?
Yeah, again, for me, it was a slow transition also for me and my family to be able to implement all the changes. But I think the Cooking for Salud program provides you those tools to make those changes to happen. again, it was a slow transition. My family wasn't very happy at the beginning, but they were conscious of like, this is what we have to eat, for lunch today, right? It is good for you. So they were accepting some of the changes. Of course, there's some tricks that you can use and you learn during the Cooking for Salud to make food taste delicious. Even, when it's plant-based. In our culture, we are always expecting meat in our plate. So it was a little bit of like, how can I just do a little switch into this meal? So yeah, it was a slow transition, but inviting my family to the gardens, bringing them to other programs at the gardens, the Hollywood Gardens offers for family members also helped a lot. So one of my kids went through a high school internship at Hollywood Gardens also. My little kid come to Hollywood for cooking classes for children. So they were all kind of on the same page. And then my husband started like, oh, what is this? What is that? It tastes really good and it doesn't have meat. So it was a slow transition. But again, the program provides you with those tools that you need to make the transition kind of more soft in a soft way.
Gotcha. So walk me through or walk the audience through, like, is it still a 7-week program? And do you get a notebook? Do you get recipes? And I know in the video, and I'll post a link to the documentary, the short version of it. I know you're in the kitchen cooking, and there's competitions of who makes the roundest or whatever it was in the video, but who wants to walk me through what do you do over that 7 weeks?
I can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
We do have, it's an 8-week program. And so in the first week, we introduce them to just the basics. We do have like different stations and we teach them how to do their own like almond milk, how to do growing their own sprouts. Growing your sprouts. We teach them about eliminating some sugar and give them options for what we call spa water. So that's basically just the first class. And then we get into bringing our chefs in, right? And so in the second class, we have a chef in, and he comes in and talks about how to cook with herbs and spices, how to decrease that salt content on your food. And so he does a demo. This time around, it's a demo. It used to be hands-on. Everybody would work in the kitchen together to prepare the meal. But, this time around, it's just being a demo because of what's going on. So that's the first class. And then we have our second class where we learn, how to substitute our proteins, our meats with plant-based protein, discovering that. And so in giving them options, and also the chef prepares a meal that has to do with that subject. And then we do have Chef Christina, that comes in and talks about whole foods, grains, and incorporating more of those and teaching them more than just, most of us are familiar with brown rice, but there's tons of whole foods out there that they can consume. And so it's also learning about that. We do have a class as well that teaches them how to look at nutrition labels, not just focusing on the marketing of the package outside the package, because that's actually marketing. But if you turn it around and look at the labels, then you'll discover more that the actual marketing is not telling you. So I think that's a very important part. So what did I do? So labels, protein, plant-based protein, salt. We talk about sugars. We talk about, we have a class that's called Honoring Our Culture. And so that's transforming a little bit some of our traditional dishes and adding healthier, more beneficial ingredients to it. So that's also a very important part. And then we also have a class that we call Kitchenista to Kitchenista, right? And this is a class where we have different stations and we have different groups of Kitchenistas that actually have gone through the program, and they talk about what's the role that they've had being a Kitchenista in the community, Hollywood Gardens, and different things that they have done. Because I think Kitchenistas are now more than just sharing healthy recipes and modifying behaviors. I think now we have evolved and we do more than that. We go out to the community, we learn about technology, we learn about finances, and we share all the information to the community. So that's also a class that we have where the participants can see what's the impact that you have in your community as a Kitchenista. So I hope I didn't miss any of the classes, but that's basically it. Learning and discovering different subjects. And I think I almost forgot, we teach you how to count colors and not calories. So we want your plate to be very colorful and you forget about the calories, because when you have different colors, you have different nutrients, and that's what's going to help you as well.
That's awesome. I love that, because everybody's so curious about counting calories. Going out into the community, hi dog, going out into the community, what has been the impact? I mean, it's been 10 years, and I know in the video, the mayor's on there complimenting the program, and has there been documentation on the change and of what's been seen? And Jackie, then you too, is like getting out. Where are you in schools and community centers, things like that?
Yeah, I think over the past 10 years, as I've mentioned, the program has evolved tremendously. And one of the ways that it's evolved is the impact that it's made on our community. And a lot of that is through the advocacy and education work that the Kitchenistas do. So the Cooking for Salud program is this amazing base of knowledge that Monica just explained, where people are really learning all these new techniques and tricks and ways to incorporate healthier food in their diets. And that directly impacts the participants and their families. And on a larger scale, it really does impact the community, as Kitchenistas are, and I'm going to steal some of Jackie's thunder here, but, you know, they're giving presentations at local schools. The Kitchenistas are, we have 10 elementary schools in National City, and they present twice a year as this peer-to-peer education on ways that you can incorporate healthier snacks and ideas into people's lives to make things easier on parents and families. They're out at city council meetings advocating for healthier options in the community. Recently, the Kitchenistas showed up at all over the county through this new initiative called Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Opportunity, where it's a new law that enacts people that can make home meals and sell them for profit. So kind of an economic driver as well. And a lot of Kitchenistas are eager to get started on this, where they can create healthier meals that are going to go right out into the community and don't need all that upfront brick and mortar cost. And then they're just out at community events. And so not only doing demonstrations, but also cooking classes and really speaking up on behalf of the community and health. And so I think the impact, you know, has spread, because we had at one point almost 300 people on a waiting list to get into the program. And so I know the team has been working extremely hard on getting people into the program. And the one thing I do want to say is one of the 6 pieces of success of the program, I think, is based on the fact that we keep these pretty small cohorts. So most of the generations that go through are no more than 20 participants. Okay. And the feedback that we get, not only is people changing what they're eating, but they're also building this community within the people in their own cohort. And so keeping the class size small is great. It helps build community and resources, and people feel comfortable sharing. And though it also means that we have a lot larger waiting list, because we're only letting a few people in at a time. And so that's something as an organization, we're really looking, how can we ensure that more people get through this program, because we see the health outcomes on the whole community. And then how do we keep the integrity of the program so people feel comfortable and safe and are able to learn in a way that's meeting their needs?
Well, and Jackie, I'm going to get right back to you in a second. But so before the show, Jen, I know statistics haven't been tracked so much, but you're really, what I thought was interesting that you told me was that seeing it in the kids and the young girl that's in the video, she's now coming back and volunteering. And so I think that's even a better, not necessarily better, but that's a really good indication that it's working.
Yeah, I think what makes the program really special is it started because kids came on a field trip and parents were interested in learning more. And now what's happening is we really decided a few years ago that National City, where we're located, was going to be kind of the core of our programs. And so we are in all 10 elementary schools with programming 3 times a year. 4th grade students come to Olivewood Gardens on a field trip. So it's this progression-based trip. But starting in January of this year, we also are in all 10 schools with educators doing environmental and nutrition science education at the school gardens. And so these students are learning, starting in kindergarten, these really amazing skills, and not only the environmental impact, but the nutrition side as well. And that's resulting in more parents knowing about our program, more people wanting to participate. We've seen students that have been in our elementary program, go through our high school program, and now are in our Cooking for Salud program. And our graduates, they're Kitchenistas as well. And I think in the next 5 or so years, we'll really start to see some of those results of these elementary students, what's going on in their families and their parents. And so while we haven't studied a lot to see what these health outcome indicators look like, but we have had a lot of anecdotal evidence. And we did do a research project a couple years ago with one of our Cooking for Salud cohorts, where we did see some statistically significant reductions in some of these health indicators just in that 8-week program. So we know it's working, and we see hope on the horizon, and the community is so invested. And I think that's what makes it work as well. It's not our organization trying to do something. It's really this partnership with the community, with the mayor's office, with other nonprofits, and then with residents in the community. And that's, I think, what's making it really impactful.
So, Jackie, I want to get back to you. And I think one thing that was interesting that you said was that you were a stay-at-home mom. And now, and it's this going through the program has completely changed your life. I mean, you're working full and we're getting out into the community. Not that you were a hermit in your house as a stay-at-home mom, but, it's given you a whole different world.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a big transition, right? I was a really happy stay-home mom, and I was like, I really enjoyed taking care of my family and being around, attending to anything that my kids had at school. But also, there's the time in your life that you wanted to do something more in a professional way, right? So I think having the guidance of and see the example of leadership in the Kitchenista group and also with the Hollywood team members, it was something really inspiring for me. So I started, discovering that I was able to do many more things. And my husband encouraged me a lot to grow and do other things. So, just get out of my comfort zone. So yeah, it was a big change, but I've been really enjoying it. And with the Kitchenista group and also with the Hollywood staff members, this transition was very successful. And I've been learning many skills. And also the thing that I mostly enjoy is just I think being involved with the community, learning from them, finding ways, as Jen was mentioning, to partnering with our community to make things happen, to make those great things that the community needs to happen. So yeah, I really enjoy that jump into my professional life also.
Well, I mean, just everything that the three of you have said, there's so many things in there. There's advocacy, there's public speaking, there's teaching, and there's building community. I mean, that the program teaches all of that in a different way, using food, which I love. That's the whole tie to that. And it's actually become a very Latina-led movement to improve the health. Have you, in your families, have you seen a lot of change in that way?
National City has, I believe, 60% Latino population. And since the program is for the community, that's why we call it a Latino movement. But actually, it's not just Latinas and it's just not women. We do have men. We do have other members of the community that come and join us. And I think it's been important at home. And with family, you get to share and you get to connect and transform recipes. So it's more than, and I think all of us share with families, not just family members, but I want to say friends as well in other communities. And I think in that sense, it's grown to be more than just for the Latino community. I think that's how it started. But obviously our idea is to make connections and to share what we've learned. So obviously it's gone outside the Latino community, and we like that. And we hope that it grows outside of National City as well. The idea that, that we can take that to other communities, that's something that we see in the future. It's something that obviously we do like to share with other communities.
Well, okay. And you saying that, it brings me back to the mission and the vision, which I didn't say at the very beginning, but I want to bring light to that, is that the mission is to inspire youth and adults to be healthy and active citizens through organic gardening, environmental stewardship, and nutrition education. And then the vision, which is awesome, a community free of diet-related health conditions and a thriving environment. So, I mean, everything that you all have each mentioned here kind of does that. But what about those missions, that mission and that vision drives you, Jackie?
Yeah, well, I think it's just like I think if you always want what one for you, you want for your surrounders, right? For the people that is around you. So I think it's just like, as Monica said before, just being an example is just try to share whatever knowledge I have and whatever experiences I get through all of these programs in Olive Gardens with other people, so they can have access to the same resources that I have. Yeah. And I think that's my brief explanation.
No, that's all right. And I mean, and asking you that too, it's like, so Monica, I'm going to flip it a little bit, but how has it significantly influenced your life? And did it do a stronger relationship with you and your mom and your grandmother? Or
Definitely. And I want to tell you that to me, it's been so gratifying coming from for-profit sector and then moving on to the nonprofit sector. It's been it's been a complete shift, right? I mean, I was so focused on my goal for the month was I had to make $24 million every month. That was the goal back then, right? Now that's not the goal. I mean, now it's gratifying. I can tell you it's so gratifying. It's getting together that list of people for the next generation. It's graduation day. For me, graduation day is a big day. It's so gratifying. It's so gratifying to hear people talk about their experiences and how it changed their lives and what is that they want to do in the future. I want to share with you that the last time I saw the movie, every time I see the movie, I see something different, and something that I had not paid attention to is that we have an activity that's the day of play, right? All the families come to Hollywood and that there's different activities. And there was a scene where one of our Kitchenistas, Alma Patti, is listening to another Kitchenista talk of corn, right? And her son was next to her. And her son was just a little boy. He was so tiny, right? But he's next to her. And I realized that now he has a YouTube channel and he likes to cook, right?
what?
But what I realized when I saw that is that just last year that we had that event again at the gardens, Alma Patti and her son were actually taking care of that station. And that's something that I hadn't realized. And when I saw that image, to me, that's her vision. His mom teaching him being interested, and now he being a volunteer. And so for that particular day, we needed help on that station. And it was the two of them, running the station. And when I realized that, when I was looking at the movie, I'm like, oh my goodness, those are the things that for me are so gratifying. And I can see that the vision of Hollywood and the vision of the Cooking for Salud program, you see it realized. And to me, I just love that. So for me, I have to say gratifying. It's been very gratifying.
Well, Jen, as the executive, and Monica, I love that because it is, and it reminds me of another guest that I had at the beginning of the month, or actually last month, Pilar from Ecuador. And she's like, she's trying to save the traditional food customs and stories from generation to generation. We're losing a lot. But what you just described is that it's grandmother and grandson, or mom and son working together on that traditional food. And I think it's keeping that connection, which I think is really important, so we don't lose that. So Jen, as you've been there 4 years now, what do you see with the mission and the vision and where this whole program is going?
Yeah, I think there's so much power in community. Olivewood's mission is, to inspire youth and adults, and we do this through these ways. But we've really started looking at health equity and doing that through this education, access, and advocacy. And when I see the mission, the vision, and our path to the future, it's going to continue to be led from our community members, from our staff, from the people that are running the programs and are living and breathing every day what it is that we're doing. As we see, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing more advocacy. We're really looking at what are the next steps to be successful in our organization and also in our community. And that's how do we advocate locally and regionally to ensure that there are less barriers to health equity and to environmental justice? And how are we educating the community on things that are important to them and are led by them? And then I think overall, I'm really inspired. Our mission is one thing, but the action that people are taking is another. And I see that every day in the folks that come through Olivewood, whether they're staff or volunteers or supporting us. We have this 8-acre property that is thriving because of the work of our staff and our volunteers and loved on by our community. And I think that's a really important piece of this as well, as we have this property that we're so fortunate to have that kind of centers us and guides us and is a space where we're able to gather and be for the community. And that's really powerful as well.
Oh, completely powerful. I love that. And you're all working together for the common cause, right? I love that. So Jackie and Monica, as Kitchenistas, as graduates of the program, is there anything, one of the questions that I have is like, what would you have done differently? But I mean, from the way you ate before you went through the program and to now, was there anything that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't like that, or I do like that, or that you would have done differently in taking the program?
Ooh. I think I will say that right now, after the program, I'm more conscious about what I put in my body. I'm more conscious about what I share and what I cook for my family also. I think about twice going to the supermarket, and I know that I use some tips that they teach us in the Cooking for Salud. So if I'm going to go to the supermarket to do my groceries, I normally eat at home, so I'm not hungry when I'm there and just like craving for everything that I see around. So I think those are the things that I really like, that I'm more conscious. I look into what I put in my body. I'm more conscious of eating whatever is in season instead of buying expensive things. I plan my meals whenever I'm able to do that. I try to invite my family to participate in the cooking also, because I know that they're going to be more likely to eat what I'm preparing. It's a beautiful time to spend with your family when you're cooking, and it's very joyful for them also to participate. So those are the things that I really enjoy doing right now, and that I think I didn't do in the past. So yeah, it's just
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Just enjoying food and being more conscious.
Monica, what about you?
For me, I think one of the things that I'm more conscious about now is even thinking about if I'm going to go out to eat, I even think about that twice, or I even think about where am I going to and what am I choosing from the menu. I mean, that's one thing. And then the other thing is that when I get together with family or friends, I try to bring something, because usually when you get together, it's for eating as well, right? So right. I make it a point to kind of bring something that's on the healthier side, or change a little bit the recipe and incorporate like a more nutrient dense ingredient on it. Doesn't always work, but I do try to do that. And I definitely am more conscious about that.
That's awesome. So what do you, as women in the food and beverage industry, which is you're in this culinary world, what do you look forward to the future of food and beverage? I mean, Monica, you just said going out, looking at menus. Do you see this growing outside of just where you are and wanting to go forward with it? Or I'm putting words in your mouth here, but just what do you see for the food and beverage industry going forward, or would like to see? All of you can answer that, or one.
If I may start on that, I would really I don't think there's a lot of emphasis on what you drink. We have an activity at Olivewood that we do for kids and the parents and the participants, and it's called Rethink What You Drink. Am I saying that right? Yes. Rethink What You Drink. And for me, it was eye-opening, and I don't think that's as important, or I don't hear that as being emphasized as much as eating healthy. But I think that's also very important, especially for kids so they can start young and they start understanding that and give them more options of healthier drinks. So I would like to see more emphasis on that, and maybe incorporating a little bit more of that into the programs. But I would like to see that. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Jackie?
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see more healthier options around for people that it's work all day and it's not able to buy or cook healthy food. Just more healthier food options around our community instead of fast food restaurants. Also, resources, education all around the country and all around the world for people to learn how to use their resources, their local food, seasonal food, and all of those education programs just to teach people how to grow their own food, right?
Mhm.
How to be sustainable, how to be able to feed your family without depending on the system, on the what's available around you. So I think for me, that can be something that I look forward to. And Hollywood is been working, again, we are small nonprofit, we are national city only, but we've been providing opportunities also in this virtual world to share what we are doing and to share our recipes and our cooking demos, around the US because of this new virtual world. So I think just finding those ways to keep providing educational programs for everybody.
Okay, awesome. Jen, what about you? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Monica and Jackie hit the nail on the head. I think access is really important. So education and access, and historically, there's some neighborhoods that don't have the same access to healthy foods as others.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be as simple as a grocery store or a corner store where you can walk and get healthier food options. And so I think that's really important. At Olivewood, we grow all this great food and we try to get it out into the community as much as we can. But that's one little farm that's trying to do this. And so what does access look like? And then I think there's this whole trend, and it's talked about in the Kitchenistas documentary by Sabrina, and it's culinary medicine. And how do we ensure that our doctors and the healthcare providers that are treating us can use food as medicine versus medicine? So how are we giving prescriptions to come through something like a Cooking for Salud program instead of just giving somebody a pill? So I think for me, those things are access and just helping people understand that the power in eating healthy. I think there's so much power in it. We see so many diet-related health conditions. And when people make one simple change in their diet, their reduction of obesity and diabetes and health disease reduces significantly. But without that education or that access, it's hard to make those steps.
Well, yeah. And you hit the nail on the head too because I think in one of the videos, it does say a lot of national city is a food desert, and which means for people that there's not a grocery store within a mile. And so that access makes it really hard to get to some of that stuff. And I worked a program in Atlanta years ago, and in SNAP programs, you can go to some of the farmers markets and you can get double the amount of fruits and vegetables with your SNAP dollars. But a lot of people don't even know how to cook those fresh fruits and vegetables. So your program helps them do that.
Yeah, I think it's about food sovereignty, right? So it's not just about this access, but it's like making sure that the food that you have access to is culturally appropriate and it's produced by people that are getting paid a fair wage, and that the community has some ownership over their food system. And Jackie touched on that a little bit. And that's another thing Olivewood's really been advocating for is, what does our local food system look like? There was a lot of emphasis on food systems during the pandemic of how they broke down and wasting food and not enough food and too much food in some instances. And if you really have this sovereign community, food is not a barrier because it is being grown. It's culturally relevant and healthy and sustainably produced. I think you have less health indicator outcomes and you also have a healthier environment. So I think those things are really critical.
That's awesome. And I agree with that. And there's a woman that I interviewed in Ghana who's helping people. And Jackie, you mentioned growing your own food. She's helping people build the raised beds in their backyard so they can grow their own food and get so used to having that and not relying on what you said, on things that are not as healthy for you in the grocery stores. So to wrap up, when I say safe, sustainable, and inclusive, what does that conjure in your mind through the Kitchenistas program?
Wow. I think it's a hard question. I think what I can share is just providing or being able to, I'm going to talk about on the cooking side of things, maybe.
Yep.
It's just like, being able to provide, this provide this program, so this information on the way that everybody needs. Everybody has a specific needs or interests, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily that you're going to provide the same tools to all of this group, because maybe not all of them need the same things. So it's just like, I think, just providing this programs and this education, and depending on what not each individual, but each community needs, right? And then maybe that's
I think that's great. And it is, and Jen, you touched on it briefly, in like the sovereignty of that and the access and how each people reacts, because Jackie, you're right in the fact that you may provide everybody a microplane or a cantaloupe, right? And what everybody does with that cantaloupe is different, right? And no matter where you are in the world, maybe you call it something else and you cook it a different way. But Monica, what do you think safe, inclusive, and sustainable means?
I think for me it would be having food that in a natural state as possible, organically grown, not consuming processed foods, avoiding having that extra package to help our environment, reducing food waste, do your own composting, and growing food that helps the land, that doesn't destroy the land, something to that effect. Yeah.
Jen,
I think Monica and Jackie have some amazing ideas. I think looking at safe and inclusionary is just involving people in decisions. So safety in terms of how people are being educated in the space that they can ask questions and feel comfortable. Inclusive in terms of its programs and activities are open to everybody. And there is something that's meeting your family's needs, your cultural needs, your individual needs. I do think the environmental impact is really important as well. The less miles your food has to travel, the less miles you have to travel to get education and have that access to that food. And I think all of that is really important to be safe and inclusive and sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Very much so. Well, I am so impressed by what you all are doing in your community with food and beverage to create safe and sustainable and inclusive experiences. And you're starting with little kids, or you started with adults and went backwards, which is great, because most times I guess you did start with the kids and they're like going home and saying, Mom, let's learn more. But so thank you for what you're doing, all of you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. So if I am can we do I'm just interested. Can people do programs online, cooking classes online? How do they find out? And if they can, I don't even know if you can, but how do they find out more about you?
They can look on our website. We have a website that it's olivewithgardens.org. And we always are updating our website with the upcoming events. It can be cooking classes for adults or for children. Most of our classes are being in person right now, and you can sign in through our website, but also we have a Facebook page that you can just follow us on Facebook or Instagram and just find out of what Hollywood is doing and what opportunities are for the community. And we also, like the Kitchenista group, because of the Kitchenistas film, there's been a lot of requests for virtual presentations in different conferences around the US. So if anyone's interested in a cooking demo on a conference, or just like a virtual cooking demo, you also can reach out to me at Jacqueline@olivewithgardens.org, or also look for our email addresses in our website, and we can figure it out how to make that work.
Okay, so I'm actually kind of remiss in the fact that I put the short documentary up there, but you all are in like winning awards for the movie. So there's a whole, we need to talk about this really quickly. There's a whole movie about you, a documentary, and Sabrina's running around the country promoting it. So who wants to talk about the movie just a little bit in general before we close, and how people can see it?
The film is kind of being shown at these different film festivals. It's been on PBS stations all across the United States for almost a year now. So that's one great way to see it. It has been winning awards in film festivals. And I think the director and producer, David Romero and Marianne Beister, have done a phenomenal job of filming and putting this story together. There are opportunities for private screenings. So that's one of the ways. There's a website. I think it's just Kitchenistas.org. Let me double check that for you. Maybe it's the Kitchenistasfilm.org. but it's a great way to request a private screening. Those can be done virtually or in person. And then you can also request Kitchenistas to do food demos like Jackie mentioned, or other add-ons to those screenings. But for right now, PBS and going to that website and trying to request private screenings is probably the best way to see the film.
Okay. Yeah. And I just Googled it. It's the Kitchenistasmovie.org. And I will put that in the stream right now so everybody gets to see it. Yeah. I mean, and the first thing that comes up is how food traditions lead to better community health. And that's just the whole foundation of what you all are doing. So everybody who's listening, there is a link on here to how to watch the film and where they're getting all this fabulous press. So keep up the good work, ladies. Is there any parting words that you'd like to say?
I would like to just invite everybody to check their local nonprofits. There's a lot of resources that a lot of nonprofits offer the community, and sometimes we're not aware of that. So, check your nonprofits and also support your nonprofits, whether it be by volunteering or donating resources.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah, I will also love to say that it's right now it's Monica and I representing the Kitchenistas, but there's like many of all the national cities out the area. They are making amazing things in the community, thanks to also the support of Hollywood Gardens. So just want to acknowledge that those leaders that are outside. And
there's 325 of you now?
Mm-hmm. I think it is. Is that the number, Jen? The last number, 325?
Well, I think we just graduated 10 more last week. So I think we have to add to that.
Yeah.
And just and how many people they're training? That's awesome. You're touching so many lives. All right. Jen, any parting words?
No, I just want to thank Jackie and Monica, as they both took the words out of my mouth. I think they are representing this group, and they're such phenomenal leaders themselves and have done so much for Olivewood in our community and are leading the charge for the future generations and Kitchenistas. And I agree, get involved with local nonprofits. If there's something that you're passionate about, April's Volunteer Month. It's the best time to volunteer at a nonprofit. And then reach out to us at olivewoodgardens.org if you're interested in learning more about us or our screening or what our Kitchenistas or other programs are up to.
Okay. Fantastic. Yay. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for stepping out of the kitchen and chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to share your story with so many more people.
Thank you.
Stay safe and eat well.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.